Hey everybody, thanks for coming back. I want to talk to you a little bit about the second part of how to build an extraordinary life. And the second part is you have to launch. If you want to build an extraordinary life, you have to launch. One of my personal setbacks, if you will, I would assume, whatever you want to call that, right? Call it a setback, a demon, and dummy, whatever you want to call that, doesn't really matter to me. But one of my personal hurdles of life is getting off the ground, getting started, right? I come from an older generation where we wanted everything to be perfect before we show it. That's just part of the gig. We wanted it to be perfect. You get older, now I'm learning that you have to launch, you have to try. You have to try. Life gets paralyzed in the analysis of, is it just right? And no one builds an extraordinary life without launching. You've got to jump out of the comfort zone. Your personal comfort zone is the enemy of your extraordinary life. You've got to write that down. Your personal comfort is the enemy of the extraordinary life that you have been summoned to as a life leader. You've got to get uncomfortable. Whatever that may be, you don't have to start with extraordinary uncomfortability. You just have to start moving into uncomfortable. You have to say to yourself, well, I remember the days. I'll tell you a quick story. I was in the 8th grade, and I think it was 8th. Could have been 9th, but I think it was the 8th grade. And we had to do a presentation. And I've always been a fairly smart guy, sharp, I should say. I was lackadaisical in school, and so I never pushed myself because I thought I knew everything I was going to be in life. At 12 and 13, I thought I had it all figured out, and well, this is what I was going to do, and this is what I was going to be. So I didn't really need all that. But anyway, long story made short, I remember this particular day, Mr. Oh my goodness. Anyway, his name fails me, but we had to do a presentation. And I just refused to do presentations. I just would not get up in front of people and talk. That was just not going to happen. So I'll take an L quick. I will take an L on that if that's the case. And I remember those days where panic would set in. And the funny scenario to that is that later in life, I've gone to realize that talking to people, getting on stage is my highest life. It's the thing that I love more than anything. Talking to you right here is just an extraordinary thing for me, right? But in those days, here's what I want you to realize. In those days, I'll take a 0 before you pressure me into getting into that position. You do what you want to do on your side, professor, but on my side, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to launch. I'm not going to try anything. I'm not going to do anything that I haven't done before, that I'm uncomfortable doing. I'm going to sit here and do what I always have done and do what I know is easy for me to do instead of launching. And, as you get older, in life and you start to realize that it's in the launch that you see what you never seen before. It's in the launch. It's not on the side. It's not thinking about the launch. It's not thinking about jumping off the high dive that you get the thrill of the dive. It's not in the contemplation of, parachuting out of a plane, which I have no idea why a human would do, but that's neither here nor there, that you get the thrill of the fall. You only get the thrill of the fall when you launch. Listen, you only get to taste the apple if you actually plant the seed. You only get to drive the car if you make the money, and you only get to make the money if you bring the value. If the value that you bring is stuck inside of you and everything is canopied under the extraordinary fear of being seen, quote unquote, for the wrong thing, which was my biggest dilemma in life, right? We have conversations now. Let me tell you how this goes in my coaching. We have conversations, and I've learned this model. My whisper. Every person on the planet has a whisperer. There's a little man that sits on your left or right shoulder your whole life, and he whispers to you every time you want to do something that you're uncomfortable with, and he goes, "Man, you're gonna fail miserably on this," right? And so my life was plagued by the whisper of, "No one wants to hear what you have to say. Sit down and shut up." So all of my life, I had lived this whisper, and it was not until I realized, and this is just recent, right? Not until I realized that the whisper is permanent. The real deal is that I don't need the whisperer to go away. I just need to launch regardless of what the whisperer says to me. Listen, here's what I want you to get. You're always going to be afraid to do extraordinary things. If your expectation is that my fear or my uncomfortability with doing things outside of myself is going to one day magically disappear, then you're going to sit in stymie. You're going to sit in the court of do nothing and watch. You're going to be the sideline stands person that watches the other people who are not afraid. I forget who said it. Anyway, I think it was a baseball player recently said the loudest commentary, the loudest negative commentary comes from the cheapest seats. It's always from the people who aren't doing anything, never in the game, never in the thing. If you want to build an extraordinary life, my personal thing is if I want to have all the things that I think I deserve, I have to launch. I have to get out into the uncomfortableness of life. If you personally want to have an extraordinary life, you have to get out in it. How do I do that? You have to be an action person. You have to be a person of action. You have to write strategy and you have to come up with game plans, but you have to move on those game plans. Here's what the Bible says. James says, don't be a hearer only of the word, of the vision in your soul, of the dream of your heart. Don't just hear it. Move towards making that happen. You have to launch. Here's what Jesus said to Peter. They're on the boat and the storm's raging and Jesus comes walking on the water. Peter says, I don't even know if, here's what Peter said. Now, I'm going to break it down for you in the Greek of today. Peter said, I don't know if that's really you or is that just a ghost? Peter said, hey, Jesus, man, if that's you, man, here's what I want you to do. Tell me to come out there with you. Here's Jesus' word. Come on out here, Pete. Come on. So but if Peter sits there in contemplation of, I'm unsure, he never has the ancient script written about him that he actually walked on the water. Now I know somebody out there is going, yeah, but he sank and all that. I don't care about that. You've never walked on 2-3 steps of water, so he did better than you've done. He's done better than I've done. But what I am wanting you to see is that the miracle is in the movement. The miracle's in the movement. It's the discipline of I'm afraid, but I'm still going to go. It's the discipline of I don't like what this feels like, but I'm still going to try it anyway. I'm still going to launch. That's where extraordinary life begins to happen. That's where all things that don't feel good start to move away. If you sit like I sat for all these years and all those many years waiting for the whisperer to leave and he never to talk to me again to say, nobody wants to hear what you got to say, I would never launch. And I would always think that my extraordinary life is outside of myself. It's bigger than me. I can never get to it. Inside of my reach, but outside of my grasp. And if you want to have an extraordinary life, you have to launch. Listen to me now. Don't live life in neglect. I need you to get this. Don't live your life in neglect. Neglect is this. I should do something, but I don't. I could work out, but I don't. I should eat better, but I don't. I could do something, but I don't do it. That is the absolute of neglect. And there's going to come a time in the backside of your life where that neglect is going to become regrets. So if you're going to build an extraordinary life, you have to launch out. You have to launch out and say, I could do it and I will. I should do it and I will. Don't wait until the backside you get on the wrong track of neglect. Neglect is the opposite of discipline. Write that down. Neglect is the opposite of discipline. And discipline is the hinge of every miracle of your extraordinary life. Discipline is the hinge. It's where all the miracles happen. So listen, if you're going to build an extraordinary life, which I want you to build, I think you can build. If I can build an extraordinary life, I know that you can build an extraordinary life. If you're going to do that, you got to launch. You have to launch. You have to try what you have never tried and get out of the comfort and walk out into an uncomfortable place to be seen for what you've never been seen for.